Hi guys, today we're going to look at one of my favorite cameras ever. This is a Kodak Brownie Starflash. They made a gazillion of these. They made them in 4 or 5 colors. The first ones were black, then the next year they introduced red ones, white ones, and blue ones. The blue ones were fairly rare. Then later they introduced a special Coca-Cola version, which was red and white both. And then eventually later they made a special tech version, which is actually sold mostly to dentists. But the reason I like this camera so much is because of the backstory behind it. When I was a kid, maybe 10 years old, this is the first camera I ever purchased with my own money. And I think at the time I was getting 50 cents a week allowance and $1 a week for sweeping the theater after every movie. So I bought this in the drugstore for $8.50, probably on time payments. But what's neat is it went into space. So my good friends Wally and Harry were working on a science project in school, and we volunteered my camera to be the camera to take the aerial photography pictures. They had hydrogen balloons. So we hooked up a bunch of hydrogen balloons and some rubber bands and some dynamite fuse. The dynamite fuse, we tested it on the ground, everything worked great. We would light this dynamite fuse, about 5 feet of it. It would burn for a ways, and then it would burn through a rubber band and trip the shutter on this camera, which was hanging down. And then it would burn for a little while later, and it would release one balloon, and then it would burn a little more and release a second balloon, and then it would come back down. So we tested it in the garage, everything worked fine. We went outside, repeated the process, let it go. It went straight up. We were all waving and smiling. We heard the shutter go click. Pretty soon one balloon got released. A little while later a second balloon got released and it started coming down. About that time the wind came up. So we hopped in the car to go chase it. In Minnesota it was going south. And the country roads are gravel roads every 1 mile. So we were zigzagging on these gravel roads. We finally ended up about 5 miles out of town when it was coming down lower and lower. So me and my friend were running as fast as we could. We were about 10 feet behind it. When the camera touched down in a black dirt field, it hit a rock, broke a little plastic piece off, and then it started going up. And we were just a few feet behind it. We couldn't grab it. And it went up and up and up, and we never saw it again. Now let me show you some of the details on this camera. These were made from 1957 to 1965. This particular blue one was hard to find, but blue was the color I originally bought when I was a kid, so I went out of my way on eBay till I finally found a blue one. Turns out the Coca-Cola versions are the hardest ones to get, or at least they demand the highest prices. It takes 127 size roll film, which is 4 by 4 centimeters, which is 1 5/8 by 1 5/8 inches, M2 flash bulbs. It has 2 f-stops, but they're not labeled f-stops. There's just a little label here for color or black and white. So depending on the film you had, I guess they assumed the black and white film had a faster shutter, a faster ASA or ISO setting than color at the time in those years. Great little camera. Here's the little click sound of the shutter. Oh, it does have a safety. You can't take a picture without winding it, so you can't, has double exposure prevention. And if we look close, and I think I did a couple close pictures, you can see the different 2 f-stops with this little setting here for color or black and white. The back comes off like this. You put roll film in it, slide it in, and take a picture. I'm always curious when I get these old cameras on what the shutter speed really is. And a lot of times on even really good cameras, the shutter speeds are always off, especially usually on the low end. At any rate, that's a Brownie Starflash. This is the special tech version. It's actually called the Brownie Star Tech. Notice the bracket in the front. It had 2 close-up lenses. The bracket in the front would give you the right focal distance for taking pictures of people's teeth. And the angled aluminum would reflect the flash, so it would get the correct exposure and light up your mouth. Dentists use these a lot. Here's how you can measure the shutter speed. I'll select the high speed video on the camera, which is 240 frames per second. Holding it up to the red eye on this camera so it can see through to the window. Take a picture while you snap the shutter, and then count the frames where the light came through. It ended up being about a 20th of a second.